In the cold edge of the galaxy where stars were few and space was dark, a patrol ship moved slowly through the void. Its crew was silent, their scanners searching for anything unusual. For many years nothing had happened in this sector. It was called the Empty Rim by the Galactic Council, a place where no trade passed and no war had been fought. But tonight the scanners caught something strange, a thin pulse, a weak signal that did not match any known frequency. The captain frowned as the signal repeated. It was slow, cold, and had a strange rhythm, like a heart that was not alive. The crew tried to decode it, but every time they got close the system crashed. Lights flickered, screens turned black for a second, then came back with errors. One of the junior officers said it might be a new smuggler code or a pirate trap, but the captain shook his head. Pirates did not make stars go dark. Because that was the second thing they noticed. A nearby star, one they had used for navigation many times, was dimmer now. Its light was fading as if something huge was blocking it, but there was nothing on their sensors. The crew felt a cold chill. Something was there, but their eyes could not see it, and their machines could not explain it. The captain sent a message to the council, a simple report about an unknown signal and an unstable star. But the message did not go through. It was sent, the system said so, but no confirmation came back. Hours passed and the crew grew restless. The signal became stronger. It felt like it was moving closer, like a shadow sliding across the void. The engineer swore he heard a hum coming from the hull, like a low song under his feet. Then the ship's lights dimmed again, and for the first time, the crew saw something. It was not a shape, not really. It was an absence. A patch of space that swallowed starlight and gave nothing back. No reflection, no outline, only a hole that moved against the stars. It was massive. Larger than their entire ship. The captain whispered, "Dark matter hull." The crew stared, fear crawling in their veins. Only one name came to mind, one they had heard in old stories: Earth. Humanity had vanished long ago, exiled or destroyed. No one knew. The council had erased their records and claimed their technologies. But some old spacers still told tales of human war machines that could hide in shadows, ships that ran on forbidden dark matter. Everyone thought those were myths, bedtime stories for alien children. But this was not a myth. The dark shape moved closer, and their engines failed. No alarms, no explosions, just silence. Their power core went offline. Their weapons froze, their life support hummed weakly. Panic filled the bridge. "Send a distress signal," the captain ordered. But the officer shook his head, his hands frozen over a dead console. "It's not working," he said. The shadow stopped a few kilometers away. For a moment nothing happened. Then a voice came through their speakers. It was broken, deep, filled with static, but the words were clear: "Do not follow the dark signal." The voice was human, old, cold, and full of warning. Before anyone could answer, the shadow turned. Stars bent around it like they were bending around a black hole. Then it was gone. No engine flash, no warp signature, just gone. The ship's power came back slowly, systems rebooting like they had only slept. The crew sat in silence. No one spoke for a long time. When the captain finally tried to send the report again, the message went through. This time they got a reply from the council. "Remain at position. Reinforcements coming." But the captain was not relieved. Reinforcements meant warships, fleets, and investigation teams. And deep in his gut, he felt that whatever they had seen was not something to fight. It was something to fear. Far across the galaxy, whispers started to spread. Merchants talked in low voices about missing ships in the empty rim. Miners claimed they saw stars go dark for no reason. And old veterans, the ones who fought in forgotten wars, began to whisper the same name: Earth. But Earth was supposed to be gone. Destroyed, silenced, erased from maps and memory. So who sent that signal? And what was that shadow in the void? The council wanted answers, but answers would not come easy. Because in the dark places between stars, something had woken up. It did not send a threat. It did not send a fleet. It sent only a signal, cold and patient. And every time someone tried to follow it, they did not return. Soon the council would send bigger fleets. Soon they would send spies and hunters. But the shadow was already moving, and the galaxy was about to remember what silence really meant. The galaxy did not sleep after the first report from the empty rim. Many called it a false alarm, a sensor ghost, or a pirate trick, but then more ships began to disappear. Cargo convoys, patrol cruisers, even private explorers, all gone without a trace. Only one escape pod was found drifting near a dying star, its outer shell burned and its inside frozen like a tomb. When the rescue team opened it, they found a single alien officer, barely alive, his skin pale and his eyes wide with terror. Before he died, he whispered 2 words over and over: "Dark matter." The pod carried a short, broken recording. It showed a fleet of 17 ships moving in formation, their lights bright, their weapons ready. Suddenly the stars around them twisted, and a black shape slid between them like a shadow come alive. There was no light from it, no reflection, only a hunger that ate the stars behind it. One by one the fleet's lights blinked out. No explosions. No debris. Just silence. The final frame was a whisper of static and a deep voice saying, "Return is forbidden." The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Their grand hall was filled with delegates of many races, their colors and banners bright, but their voices filled with fear. The High Speaker, a tall being of glassy skin, slammed his staff and called for order. "This cannot be Earth," he declared. "Earth is gone. We made sure of that centuries ago." But others disagreed. "If Earth is gone, then what is hunting our fleets?" asked a reptilian admiral with scars on his jaw. "This technology matches only one record, and that record was human." The council argued for hours. Some wanted to send a grand armada to crush the shadow. Others whispered that silence might be wiser. Meanwhile, trade routes near the empty rim closed, and merchants refused to travel through those stars. People started drawing black marks on their maps, warning their children never to go near that space. In the cold dark, the shadow moved again. This time it appeared near the mining colonies of Velron 6. Miners working on the surface looked up to see their twin moons go dark as if a curtain had covered them. They sent warnings to the orbital station, but before the message could finish, the station lost all power. Orbit cameras caught a faint ripple, a ship darker than space itself moving without sound. Then the recording ended. Weeks later, the council sent an investigation team with 3 warships. They reached Velron 6, and only empty orbits greeted them. The moons were still there, but their surfaces were scarred with deep black burns like wounds in reality. No life, no signal, only cold silence. A message was found etched into the mining station's broken wall: "Do not call the dark." It was written in Standard Galactic, but the letters were human. The council grew desperate to hide the news, but rumors spread faster than their censors could stop them. Across the galaxy, old veterans began to tell forgotten stories. About the day the galaxy turned against Earth, about the betrayal that forced humanity into exile. Some said Earth was destroyed by a joint fleet, others said they went into the void to build weapons no one could imagine. Now those weapons had returned. One council member suggested a peace envoy, but no one knew where to send it. The shadow had no base, no planet, no beacon. It came and went like a ghost. Reports said it did not steal resources, did not conquer land. It only erased fleets that tried to chase it. The council armed more fleets, but commanders grew hesitant. No one wanted to be the next name on the list of missing ships. In dark corners of space stations, smugglers and captains started a new whisper: "The shadow does not attack first. Only those who seek it vanish." But pride is a heavy chain. One great empire, the Kraylan Dominion, decided to act. They were old enemies of Earth, proud and full of scars from past wars. Their supreme marshal declared the shadow a human weapon and sent their first spear fleet, 200 ships strong, into the empty rim. "We will bring back its head," he told the galaxy. They left with banners high and weapons hot. 3 weeks later, the fleet was gone. No distress call. No signal. Only a single fragment of audio leaked to the council, the same deep voice as before, whispering, "Dark matter burns." That was when fear truly began. This was not a single ship, some said. This was the first of many. A fleet of black warships built from dark matter, powered by silence, moving without light. The name Earth was spoken again, not in laughter now, but in trembling respect. Merchants began carrying charms and old Earth coins as protection. Children drew black ships in their lessons. And somewhere, in the deep hidden archives of the council, the old records were unlocked. Files that told of Earth's last war, their last cry before vanishing, their threat that one day they would return to claim the stars. The High Speaker stared at those files in private. His reflection in the glass showed fear for the first time. "What if we were wrong?" he whispered to himself. "What if they never died?" Outside his window, the stars looked the same as always, but he could not shake the feeling that something was already watching. The shadow did not send demands. It did not send peace. It only sent a warning wrapped in silence, and every empire had to choose whether to hear it, or to vanish in the dark. The Galactic Council chamber was full as the alarms of the outer sectors echoed across the stars. Delegates from hundreds of worlds gathered under the great dome of light, their faces tense and their voices sharp. Reports of missing fleets, dying stars, and the black shadow had grown too many to ignore. The High Speaker stood at the center, his voice calm but his hands tight on the staff of office. "We will not give power to fear," he said. "This is a phantom, a myth brought to life by traitors and cowards. Earth is gone, its people scattered like dust. There is no human fleet. There is no dark armada." His words echoed, but not all believed. A counselor from the Veil Systems rose, his skin like silver glass. "And what of the recordings? The voices? The warnings written in human script? Are those myths too?" The High Speaker looked at him coldly. "Fabrications. Old technology revived by pirates or traitors. If we show weakness now, the galaxy will collapse into panic." The chamber rumbled with angry replies. Some demanded a full-scale war effort, to hunt the shadow with everything they had. Others warned that attacking the unknown might only awaken something far worse. An old general stepped forward, his body wrapped in medals and scars. "I fought in the old wars," he said. "I saw what Earth was capable of. We crushed them because we were united. But if they are back, they are not the same. You do not erase fleets without firing a shot unless you hold power we cannot measure." His words brought silence to many, but the High Speaker slammed his staff again. "We will send a task force," he declared. "A small fleet, enough to show strength, not weakness. We will analyze this shadow, and if it resists, we will burn it out of the sky." Messages were sent, orders signed, fleets prepared. But not all obeyed gladly. In the halls outside the chamber, whispers crawled like insects. Some counselors sent secret messengers to their home worlds, telling them to seal their borders. Traders hoarded fuel and food, believing war would break trade routes. On distant stations, refugees already fled from the empty rim, their ships filled with children and old stories of a coming storm. Days later, the Council fleet departed. 30 warships, armed with the best technology the galaxy could build, led by Admiral Caris, a commander famous for his ruthless victories. As they entered the dark sectors, they broadcast a message. "To the unknown ships in the rim, you are violating Council space. Identify, or be destroyed." Their message echoed into the void. 4 hours there was no answer. Then the stars shifted. Instruments went blind, their maps scrambled. A shadow passed across the fleet, larger than any planet. It moved without sound, without signal, only darkness bending the light. Caris ordered weapons to fire. Cannons roared, missiles flew, but they struck only empty space. One by one, the fleet's lights dimmed. Power cores failed. Engines died. In the silence, a voice came through every ship at once, the same deep, broken voice heard before. "Do not summon war." Then the dark shape vanished. The fleet did not return. Only one damaged probe escaped, drifting with a single message burned into its core: they are awake. The council tried to hide this disaster, but news leaks faster than truth in a galaxy full of fear. Merchants carried the story. Soldiers whispered it in barracks. The people began to doubt their leaders. The council lies, they said. The shadow is real. In secret, some leaders began building their own defenses, but how do you fight something that eats light? In the great hall, the High Speaker still stood proud. He called the missing fleet a minor loss, a sacrifice for order. We cannot bow to phantoms, he told the galaxy. We must show strength. But in the night, he stared at the dark stars beyond the window, and his reflection looked old, afraid, and hollow. Because deep inside, he remembered the old war too. He remembered the day they betrayed Earth. He remembered the ships that disappeared, the cities that burned, and the warning humans gave before they were cast out. One day, the dark will answer. And now, in the void, that answer had come. The council still denied it, still claimed control, but the shadow was already moving. It did not care for speeches. It did not care for politics. It only moved from star to star, silent and unseen, and with every fleet that vanished, the galaxy believed less in the council and more in the whispers of Earth's return. The galaxy could not remain still while the shadow moved freely across its stars. After the loss of the council's fleet and the growing panic among the people, a new plan was made in secret chambers filled with maps and cold light. The council decided to hunt the shadow, not with one fleet but with many scattered like nets across the empty rim. They called upon bounty hunters, private warlords, and small empires hungry for reward. The offer was simple: capture or destroy the black ship and receive gold, power, and influence. Many answered. Some came with heavy battleships, others with fast raiders and stealth scouts. They laid traps near dying stars, near hidden wormholes, and along the ancient trade lanes now abandoned. For weeks they waited, their ships cold and their weapons ready, whispering to each other about what they would do with the reward. Some laughed and said the shadow was only a myth that scared weak captains, others sharpened their knives in silence. But the shadow was watching too. In the third week, a hunter fleet of 12 ships detected a ripple near the star Zera, 4. Their sensors caught a faint pulse, the same strange rhythm that others had reported before their disappearance. The commander, a bold mercenary named Vash, ordered his ships to follow. They spread out in formation, their engines silent as they entered the dark field. The stars seemed dimmer here, the light bent at strange angles, and their instruments began to fail one by one. At first they thought it was the nebula's interference, but then the crew heard it, a low hum inside the hull, like a whisper crawling through the metal. The hum grew louder. Lights flickered. The star behind them dimmed until it was no more than a cold ember. Then they saw it. A shape sliding across the void, so dark it made the other stars vanish behind it. It had no edges, no glow, no trail, only an absence that moved with purpose. Vash ordered all ships to fire at once. Beams of plasma, streams of missiles, torpedoes tipped with antimatter, all launched at the shadow. But every shot bent away or vanished like stones thrown into deep water. The shadow kept moving. It did not fire back. It only passed through the fleet, and as it passed, ships turned dark one by one. Power drained, weapons locked, life support flickered. On the flagship, Vash tried to restart his systems, but the controls froze, showing a single symbol on every screen, a circle of black surrounded by a faint blue ring. It was an ancient human mark, one that many had seen only in old band archives. A voice filled the bridge, broken but cold. You were warned. The dark does not forgive hunters. Then the flagship went silent. Hours later, all 12 ships were gone. Their beacons stopped, their signals vanished, and only the empty dark remained. News reached the council through broken whispers and smuggler channels. The hunters failed, the traps failed, and the shadow was unharmed. Yet it was not random. It did not attack colonies. It did not destroy stations unless provoked. It only struck those who sought it. The galaxy began to change. Merchants refused to take contracts near the rim. Civilian ships painted their hulls with white rings, an old human sign of surrender, hoping it would spare them. Some small empires pulled their fleets home, leaving outer colonies unprotected. The council grew desperate. They called the leaders of the great powers again. "We must strike together," the High Speaker said, his voice sharp. "We cannot let a ghost decide the future of the stars." But many did not answer. Fear was heavier now, and unity was breaking apart. In the shadows of this chaos, the dark ship moved to a new sector. This time, it left a message behind carved into the frozen surface of an abandoned moon: "Silence is safety." The words were burned into the rock with precision that no known weapon could make. The message spread like wildfire. Some called it a threat, others called it mercy. Scholars began to search old Earth texts, digging up what was erased long ago. They found hints of a project, a fleet designed not to conquer but to erase war itself, a fleet built with dark matter cores that could bend the laws of space. If the Shadow was part of that fleet, then humanity was no longer the weak forgotten species of the past. They had become something else, something the galaxy was not ready to face. Yet the Council could not stop now. More fleets were sent, more traps set, and each one fell the same way, without noise, without battle, only silence and the mark of the dark. Slowly, the galaxy began to understand a simple truth: the Shadow was not hunting them. They were hunting the Shadow, and for that, they paid the price. The galaxy woke to a nightmare when the news of the missing moons reached the central sectors. It started with a single report from a lonely outpost near the Starbound Valor, where 2 moons that had circled the planet for thousands of years were suddenly gone. There were no explosions, no debris fields, only black scars left in orbit like holes burned into the fabric of space. At first the Council called it a natural collapse, a gravity fault caused by unstable cores, but soon more reports followed from other systems, each the same: missing moons, dead satellites, and cold silence where life once was. Fear grew until no amount of official words could stop it. The name Earth was now spoken openly. Merchants whispered it in markets, soldiers muttered it in mess halls, and rulers discussed it in locked rooms. The Shadow that had erased fleets was not alone. There were more, many more. A group of explorers hiding near the edge of the Calath Belt sent the first true image. It was a long-range snapshot taken in the dark, blurry but terrifying. Dozens of black shapes moving in formation, each one bending the stars around it. They had no lights, no heat, no engine trails, but they moved like a living army. The message they sent with the image was simple: the black ships are not one, they are a fleet. That message reached the galaxy like a hammer. Panic took over trade routes. Colonies closed their ports. Some minor empires began offering tribute to empty space, sending gold and fuel to dead sectors, hoping to buy safety from ghosts. In the council chamber, the High Speaker tried to keep order, but the hall was louder than ever. "This is a war fleet," one admiral shouted. "This is an invasion." "No," said another, a thin scholar from the archives. "If they wanted war, our worlds would already burn. They are moving with purpose, but not to conquer." The debate meant nothing to the people. They saw the images, they heard the stories, and they began to prepare for the worst. Some built bunkers, some fled to the inner core, and some prayed to forgotten gods. Meanwhile, the fleet of black warships, soon called the Black Armada, continued to appear in more sectors. They never sent demands. They never fired first. But if a fleet moved against them, it vanished. An entire Kraylan outpost disappeared in less than an hour after launching missiles at one of the black ships. No wreckage was found, only the same words burned into the ground: "Do not cross the dark line." No one knew what the dark line was. Scholars argued it was a border, an invisible wall drawn by the humans. Merchants thought it was a warning line to protect something in the empty rim. Commanders thought it was a trap to spread fear. But whatever it was, more and more systems began to guess they were already inside it. The council grew weaker with each passing week. Empires stopped answering their calls. Alliances broke apart as leaders decided to guard their own borders instead of joining another doomed fleet. In the shadows of this chaos, the Black Armada grew. Some miners said they saw them moving like a silent storm, hundreds of ships gliding through the dark without a sound. Others swore they saw only one ship at a time, but it was always a different one, each larger than the last. There were even rumors of ships the size of moons, hollow inside, carrying cities of machines. None of these reports were confirmed, but fear made every whisper true in the eyes of the people. The council tried one last show of strength. They gathered a coalition fleet of 50 ships and ordered them to patrol the border sectors. For 3 days the fleet sent normal reports. On the 4th day, their signals turned to static. On the 5th, a single probe returned with a recording, black shapes surrounding the fleet like shadows in water, then the stars going out one by one. No explosions. No escape. Only silence. After that, no one volunteered for council duty near the rim again. The Black Armada did not chase the retreating fleets. It did not burn colonies that stayed quiet. It only watched and moved, a silent wall spreading across the stars. Traders began to say a strange thing in their travels. The black ships are not at war. The galaxy is at war with itself. They meant that fear was doing more damage than any weapon. Systems were falling without a single shot. Food shipments stopped, medicine failed to reach sick colonies, pirates grew bold in places where fleets had withdrawn. And all the while, the Shadow Fleet grew stronger. No one knew where it came from. No one knew how many ships there really were. But in the deep cold heart of the galaxy, some old veterans began to remember the promise humanity made when they were cast out. We will not start the next war. We will end it before it begins. Now, as the Black Armada formed its silent wall, many began to wonder, was this the beginning of that end? The galaxy had grown quiet in fear as the Black Armada moved like a cold tide across the stars, and yet no one truly knew what it wanted. Then, for the first time, a voice spoke clearly. It happened in the Duryan sector, where a trading convoy drifted in empty space, their engines low to save fuel, their crews whispering prayers to the void. The stars flickered once, as if a great shadow had passed over them, and then every ship's communication system turned on by itself. The screens went black, and a voice, deep and human, filled the silence. "Do not cross the dark line," it said, calm but final. "Silence is your shield." No attack followed. No ship was lost. The shadow passed and was gone, leaving only those words behind. The convoy sent the recording to the council, and for the first time, the galaxy had a message to study. Scholars argued over its meaning. Some said it was a warning to stay away from the rim, others said it was a threat meant to break their courage. A few, the ones who still remembered old Earth history, whispered that it was a promise, that the humans were not here to conquer but to keep something contained. More messages began to appear in the following weeks, always the same voice, always the same warning. A passenger liner near the frozen moon Arzel heard it when their engines failed for a brief moment, and then their power returned unharmed. A military scout reported the same voice as its crew drifted powerless for an hour, only to wake with a full energy core and a strange mark on their hull, a black ring burned into the metal. The council was divided. Half wanted to respond with peace signals, to try and speak with the Dark Fleet. The other half said that showing weakness would invite destruction. The High Speaker stood in the middle of their shouting, his face hard and his voice heavy. "They are telling us to stop," he said at last. "And yet we keep sending fleets. We are the ones crossing their line, not them. But politics is a slow beast, and pride is a heavy chain." Another fleet was prepared in secret, meant to strike deep into the rim and find the heart of the black warships. Before it could even depart, 3 of its command ships were found drifting near their own docks, dark and cold with the same ring burned on their hulls. There were no dead, no wounded, only sleeping crews who woke with the same message ringing in their heads: "Do not cross the dark line." Fear turned to confusion, confusion to silence. Trade routes stopped moving near the rim entirely. Small colonies began to govern themselves, cutting off contact with the council. Merchants refused even the richest contracts if it meant passing near the black marks on the map. And slowly, the galaxy began to listen. The Black Armada was not destroying worlds. It was drawing a border. No one knew why. No one dared ask. In dark rooms, hidden from the public, Some leaders whispered of old crimes. Centuries ago, the galaxy had taken something from Earth. They had broken treaties, burned cities, and cast humanity out, afraid of what it could become. Could this border be a wall to keep them out? Or a cage to keep something else in? The voice gave no answer. It came and went, sometimes weeks apart, always calm, never angry, never pleading. Just a warning. And yet, that warning carried more power than any fleet. Wars had stopped not because of peace talks, but because commanders feared the shadow that might appear if they moved their armies too far. Pirates fled rich sectors because they were too close to the Dark Line. The Council sent secret envoys with gifts and messages of peace, but none returned with answers. Only one came back with a small box, black and cold, with a simple line of text etched into its lid. "We remember." The High Speaker read those words in private, and for the first time in many years, his hands trembled. The galaxy was now a place where silence ruled more than law. No one wanted to be the next name on the list of missing fleets. No one wanted to see their stars dim. The voice in the silence had become the loudest sound in the galaxy, and every empire was now waiting for the next message, because in its calm, they heard a storm that had not yet begun. The whispers about Earth had become too loud to ignore, and soon a secret that had been buried for centuries began to crawl back into the light. It started with a leak from the archives of the Galactic Council, a data file stolen by a group of unknown hackers and spread across hidden networks. The file contained old reports, sealed transcripts, and battle records that told a story the galaxy was never meant to hear. Centuries ago, before the black ships, before the silence, Earth had been one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. They had created technology that could bend gravity, heal planets, and harvest dark matter safely. But they were growing too strong, too fast, and the great empires feared they would not remain loyal to the Council's rule. A secret alliance was made, and Earth was betrayed. Fleets came not to protect but to destroy. Cities were bombed from orbit, their space stations turned to dust, their leaders hunted. The survivors sent a final message to the stars: "You will regret this. We will not scream. We will return." That was the last record before Earth vanished from maps. The Council told the galaxy that Earth had fallen because of its own arrogance, that its people had turned dangerous and had to be removed for the safety of all. But the files told the truth: Earth had been erased because it refused to kneel. When the leaks reached the public, chaos followed. Protests erupted on central worlds, small colonies declared they would not follow Council orders, and many began to whisper that the Black Armada was not a threat but a reckoning. Old veterans came forward with memories they had been ordered to forget, memories of battles fought not to defend the galaxy, but to erase a people who had once been their allies. One soldier spoke on an underground broadcast: "We fired first. We stole their science. We hunted their children. If they come back now, it is not war, it is judgment." The Council tried to deny the leaks. They called them fakes, enemy propaganda, false history. But the more they denied, the more truth surfaced. Old captains showed scars from the war, old engineers revealed stolen designs that matched the black ships. One by one, the galaxy began to believe the old promise. Humanity had not been destroyed, it had been driven into the dark with every reason to rise again. The High Speaker met with his closest advisors in secret. His voice was low, his eyes heavy. "If this spreads further, our unity will collapse," he said. "The people will see us as the traitors, not the protectors." One advisor, a thin creature with silver bones, whispered back, "Perhaps it is already too late. Perhaps they are not seeking war. Perhaps they are showing us what we have become." Outside the chambers, the Black Armada continued to move. More fleets were sighted at the edge of civilized space, each one silent, each one leaving behind the same warning: do not cross the dark line. But now, with the truth spreading, the message carried a different weight. It was not just a border. It was a line drawn by those who had been wronged, a shield built from vengeance and patience. The galaxy trembled, torn between fear and guilt. Some called for surrender, to open channels to the humans and beg for peace. Others demanded war before the Black Fleet grew too large to stop. And through it all, the dark ships said nothing more than they already had. They erased fleets only when provoked. They passed colonies without firing a shot. They carved their warnings into rock and left. But the people now understood that this was not a phantom war. It was a reckoning for a crime their ancestors had committed and their leaders had hidden. The Black Armada was not here to take their worlds, it was here to remind them that some debts are never forgotten. The galaxy was holding its breath when the first great act of destruction came without warning. It happened near the twin suns of Valor Prime, a proud empire that had mocked the rumors of Earth's return and called the Black Armada nothing more than shadows and fear tricks. Their rulers had grown bold after the Council's weakness, and they decided to strike first to prove to the stars that the humans were only myths. They sent their grand fleet, 300 warships strong, armed with weapons designed to burn planets and break moons, and they marched toward the dark line with banners high and voices loud. Their message to the galaxy was clear: we will not live under a ghost's threat. For weeks they prepared, their fleets crossing sector after sector, until they reached the edge of the rim where the stars dimmed and signals often vanished. They sent challenges into the void. No one answered. They launched scouts ahead. None returned. Still their commanders pushed forward, their pride heavier than their fear. Then, on the night their fleet gathered near the twin suns, the stars began to bend. At first it was like a heat wave, a shimmer at the edge of their scanners, then a ripple like a curtain drawn across space. The Black Armada appeared not as one ship, not as 10, but as a wall of darkness that stretched farther than their eyes could follow. It made the suns look pale, as if the light itself was being swallowed. For a moment, silence filled the airwaves. The Valor commanders laughed. At last, they said, the ghosts have shown their faces. They armed their cannons, charged their war cores, and prepared to strike. But before they could give the command, the dark ships moved. There was no flash, no beam, no missile trail. Only a pulse. One wave of silent force that washed across the fleet like cold fire. In less than a minute, 300 ships were gone. Not destroyed in the way war taught them to expect. They did not explode. They did not scatter debris. They simply faded, their lights turning off, their cores freezing, their signals dying one by one until only the empty void remained. The twin suns burned brighter for a moment, as if gas had been stolen from them, then they dimmed to cold embers. Entire colonies depending on their light woke to darkness that night. The message that followed was the same voice that had haunted so many before: this is your only warning. There will not be another. The recording spread faster than any fleet. Across the galaxy, rulers and soldiers watched it again and again, and even the proudest among them felt the weight of that cold voice. It was not rage. It was not hate. It was judgment delivered with precision. The council held an emergency meeting, but their hall was almost empty now. Many empires had withdrawn their delegates, some had even abandoned the council entirely, locking their borders and declaring neutrality. Merchants stopped all routes near the twin suns. Planets went dark, not because they were attacked, but because fear had turned them inward. The Valor Prime that had once shouted for war was silent now, its rulers missing, its colonies cut off. Across distant sectors, the Black Armada was seen again, drifting like a dark storm but never striking without cause. Some said they were giving the galaxy a choice: obey the warning and live in peace, or cross the line and vanish without a trace. Scholars dug deeper into the old records and found a phrase from Earth's lost past: war is loud. Justice is quiet. They whispered it to each other and wondered if this was the justice promised long ago. The High Speaker of the Council stood at his balcony that night and looked into the dark. He could not sleep. He could not eat. He could only think of the fleets he had sent, the lies they had told, and the price that was now being paid. He whispered to himself, "We started this. We taught them silence. Now silence is what rules us." And somewhere, in the cold reach of the stars, the Black Armada moved again, their black hulls swallowing light, their engines leaving no trail. They did not send demands. They did not take worlds. They only erased those who defied them and left the rest of the galaxy to choke on its own fear. The galaxy stood at a crossroads and every empire knew it. The Black Armada had spoken without words, and their fire without warning had left scars deeper than any war could. Worlds that once shouted for glory now whispered in the dark. The council tried to call a final meeting to unite the remaining powers, but the grand chamber that once held thousands now echoed with empty seats. Many rulers refused to come, fearing assassination or collapse, and those who did arrive came with heavy guards and silent stares. The High Speaker looked over the hall and felt the weight of failure. He raised his voice and said, "We must decide now. Do we stand together and fight this shadow, or do we open a path to peace?" His words were met with murmurs, not cheers. Some argued that war was the only answer. They claimed surrender would make them slaves to the humans. Others whispered that war had already failed and that another fleet would only lead to another graveyard. News of the Valor Prime fleet's erasure still burned in their minds like a fresh wound. Merchants reported whole sectors closing their borders, planets turning away travelers, colonies cutting off trade to avoid becoming targets. The galaxy was shrinking into silence and fear. In a quiet corner of the chamber, an old ambassador spoke up. His voice was rough, but it carried across the hall. "We wronged them first," he said. "They warned us. They told us what would happen. This is not conquest, this is consequence. If we choose war again, we choose our own extinction." Many turned their heads away, but his words struck like a stone in still water. Outside the council, citizens demanded answers. Some carried banners calling for peace, others called for revenge, and a few simply packed their families and left for distant, unclaimed space, hoping to live beyond the reach of the Dark Line. Pirate fleets surrendered at the edge of human-controlled zones, asking for mercy. Old enemies signed ceasefires overnight, fearing the same judgment. The galaxy had never been so divided yet so united in one feeling, the fear of what would come next. Far away, the Black Armada waited. No diplomats came from them, no threats beyond the silent warnings carved into cold rock. Only their ships, motionless like a wall of night, marked the edge of what was once free space. A small group of neutral worlds sent a secret message: "We will open talks. We will ask what they want." The council called them cowards at first, but when no fleets returned from war and no new victories were won, the same council began to whisper about sending envoys too. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's pride began to bend. The High Speaker met with his last loyal commanders. "If we choose peace," he asked, "what will be left of our power?" One commander, a scarred veteran who had seen the silent destruction near the Twin Suns, replied, "Perhaps power is what started this. Perhaps survival is all we can still claim." Across the stars, families prepared for the worst. Some stalked their shelters, some prayed to old gods, some simply stared at the dark sky and wondered if the humans were watching them now. Children were told stories of Earth, not as a distant enemy but as a ghost that returned when the galaxy broke its word. Traders who once cheated small colonies now offered them protection. Soldiers laid down their arms on border worlds, waiting for orders that never came. And through it all, the question grew louder: will the galaxy fight and risk total erasure, or will it kneel and ask for forgiveness? The choice was coming faster than anyone expected. Reports came of 3 new dark fleets appearing on opposite sides of the rim. They did not fire. They did not speak. They simply stood like judges waiting for a verdict. A final message appeared on every major broadcast channel at once. No one knew how it was sent. No one could trace it. It was only a single sentence: "Your choice will decide if the stars live or fall." In that moment, every leader, every soldier, every child understood. The next step was theirs. The humans had nothing more to prove. The galaxy would decide its own fate. The galaxy had reached its breaking point when the silent accord was finally born. After weeks of fear, debate, and unrest, the council sent its last envoys across the dark line where the Black Armada waited like a wall of night. No one knew if they would return. Whole worlds watched the stars in silence, some praying for peace, others preparing for death. The envoy ships entered the void without banners, without weapons active, only lights dimmed as a sign of surrender. 4 days, no signal came. Then, on the 7th day, a message returned, simple, cold, and final. Speak only truth. Break no word. The accord will stand. The Black Armada emerged slowly, their dark matter warships gliding past the edge of known space, not as conquerors but as enforcers of a new law. They did not take planets, they did not demand tribute, they only marked the borders with silent beacons that pulsed once every hour, a warning to all who passed. The silent accord was signed in a forgotten sector, a barren station where no empire held claim. Leaders from fractured empires, merchants from broken routes, and even pirates who had once preyed upon the weak stood together under one rule: there would be no more fleets raised against Earth. In exchange, the Black Armada would not burn the galaxy. The terms were clear: no lies, no secret weapons, no hidden armies crossing the line. Any world that tried would vanish like the Valor fleet. At first, many doubted this peace. They whispered that it was only the quiet before the next strike. But as months passed, the dark fleets withdrew, leaving only their sentinels behind. Trade began to flow again, cautiously. Star lanes reopened under new rules: fairness over greed, respect over fear. The galaxy learned to live with the silence, because silence now meant survival. Children grew up seeing the black beacons in the sky and asked their elders what they were. The answer was always the same: they are the reminder. They are the promise. Some empires thrived in this new age, using the forced peace to rebuild what war had torn apart. Others shrank into the shadows, their power broken, their pride gone. The council itself changed. Its halls were no longer filled with shouting rulers but with quiet caretakers who knew their words carried the weight of extinction. They no longer planned wars. They planned winters, harvests, and quiet growth. In the distant dark, Earth remained silent. No human voice ever claimed the stars, no fleet ever marched to take thrones. Their warships stayed unseen, moving like whispers at the edges of maps. Some said Earth had forgiven the galaxy but would never trust it again. Others said this was not forgiveness but patience, a long watch to make sure the same betrayal would never return. Legends began to grow, of ghost captains in black ships, of human eyes watching from the void, of entire fleets turned to ash in a breath. Yet the galaxy endured, because fear had taught it a new way to live. On the anniversary of the Accord, the High Speaker stood before the stars and spoke words few expected. We were given a chance not by mercy but by memory. We will not waste it. His speech was carried to every world, and for the first time in generations, the galaxy listened not out of fear, but out of hope that the silence would last. Somewhere beyond the dark line, deep in the cradle of the old blue planet, the humans listened too. They neither cheered nor wept. They only watched, their ships hidden in the black, their engines cold, their vengeance complete. The silent accord had done what no war ever could. It made the galaxy choose peace not out of love, but out of survival. And in that quiet, the stars began to heal.